The story comes to us from KXAN.com.
New report shows policies at the Austin Police Department are not designed for people with disabilities, leading to some negative interactions with officers. Those are the findings from a public safety town hall hosted by the Office of Police Oversight.
The 196 responses collected for analysis point to reflect that people with disabilities in Austin feel more work is needed to develop trust in policing. No kidding. The Office of Police Oversight is a local government agency that's independent of Austin Police Department. And here's what they found. People with physical or psychological disabilities often have negative interactions with police officers because these communities view them as a danger, or the disability community is viewed as a danger. It's because a lot of times people with mental disabilities, they get mad real quick. No touching. Ah! Cops don't understand that. What do they want to do? They want to grab them. And sometimes, I had a cop tell me, you really don't know. Sometimes we have to get them. We have to get them under control. So you have a person with a mental disability that doesn't like being touched, and the first thing you have to do is grab them. What? It doesn't make sense to me. Some individuals said having a disability can cause the perception that they're being non-compliant, like I was just explaining. The use of tools like guns coupled with aggressive attitudes can cause people with disabilities to become fearful. Well, people without disabilities get scared of cops with guns and lead to more potentially uncomfortable, dangerous situations. Like one person explained, for visually impaired individuals, no eye contact can be misinterpreted by police. So you have somebody that's not looking at the cops, they may think this guy's getting ready to do something. No, he's visually impaired. They go on, Austin police need more training resources, communication, and engagement with people with disabilities, including about how they may react in certain situations, like being touched, being grabbed. It talks about race disability in this article, which is in the description box below. You'll click the link. When developing or implementing policy, Austin Police Department must be aware of the intersection of race and disabilities. Certain racial, ethnic groups, classes, and gender identities already have fear and distrust of police, particularly, like, let's say, the black community. They don't trust the police at all, and now you have somebody that's a person of color and disabled. Means they may act a different way, and people with disabilities do act a different way, and I mean that sincerely from the heart. Like me, a cop comes up, I can talk to the cop. If the cop, what are you doing? What are you doing, dude? No, hold on, don't move. A person who, let's say, has Down syndrome or some type of other mental disability, if a cop grabs them, they get freaked out and they start, and the cop, somebody with autism. Autistic people don't like being touched or grabbed. So they act differently, and the cops take that as non-compliance. One participant said, I don't call the cops. I'm a rather large black man with a son with a disability, and it is not safe for me to do so. It's not safe for him to call the cops. We've all seen the videos, he says. It is a lot of risk that I am unwilling to take. He doesn't even want to call the cops because he's afraid his son might end up dead. How sad is that, to live like that? As a black parent of a child with disabilities, said another participant, it's very difficult to even consider calling the police in an emergency. Students of color are disproportionately affected when police report to school systems. Some participants say educators and parents are afraid to call the police because of how racism operates in the criminal justice system, which can lead to students of color being arrested and even sent to prison. And then they talk about the mental health crises and some recommendations.
In a memo, the office released a list of recommendations for the police department. They include more training for officers in communications and meetings between officers and people with disabilities in the community.
Conversations should focus on the unique experiences that students with disabilities have in the education system. So the link below, you can click that. You'll read the whole story if you want. I left some of the stuff out. But the gist of this story is that people with disabilities in the Austin, Texas area don't trust Austin PD. They say, you know what, we're not having good contacts with Austin PD. Well, I think that's everywhere. Nationwide, I think that people with disabilities, particularly mental disabilities, do not have good interactions with cops because police say, we're not medical, we're law enforcement. We're not medically trained individuals. Come on now. Or they try to cop-splain. Well, if the person's out of control, they could hurt themselves. We have to get them under control before they hurt themselves. Then how come I've seen other cops walk up to people with mental disabilities who are going crazy? I even seen one with a rake one time on the the TV show Cops. And this police sergeant was talking to him. Finally, the guy threw down the rake. He goes, "Thank you, Bobby," or I forget what his name was. But he goes, "Now, what's the problem?" They yelled at me. And he's talking about the nurses at the facility where the guy's from. And the police sergeant just continues to talk to him. And finally, the police sergeant gets up close enough to him to pat him on the back. And they come up and they handcuff him very slowly. And they walk with him. And he's walking with the police sergeant. My point is, how come that guy could talk this guy down without having to rush him and grab him and throw him down and handcuff him? But other cops, well, you don't understand. It's situation by situation. I get that. But are you saying to me then that the majority of situations, that was a minority situation? The majority of situations are you just have to take them down and handcuff them? Is that what you're saying? I don't believe that. I believe that a lot of law enforcement are poorly trained in dealing with the mentally ill or the mentally disabled. The problem with that is cops deal with people every day. We're law enforcement. We're out there to handcuff people and take them to jail. We're not doctors. We're not psychologists. Well, you need to have some form or some level of psychology if you're going to be a cop. Why? Because you're going to deal with mentally disabled people. You see what I'm saying? Cops are unique in that way, that not only are they law enforcement officers, but they're also psychologists, counselors, teachers. You deal with children all the time. Role models. Cops are unique in that situation. They have to sometimes put on a different hat when they're dealing with somebody else. Cops don't know how to do that. I just wear one hat. It's the hat that I arrest you or I shoot you. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below.
The Office of Police Oversight scheduled a second town hall event in 2022. This will focus on building and understanding people with disabilities and outreach events between both groups.